Hey everybody, welcome back to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter. It's been a week without that many videos after the excitement of Fantastic Four coming out. We got an earlier drop than expected. This honestly came out of the blue. If you listen to the podcast, when we were doing the podcast, it still said Eyes of Wakanda was coming out August 27th on Disney+. That is not the case. As you can tell from clicking on this video, you already know that Eyes of Wakanda is out now. So, I've just finished watching all 4 episodes. Now, it is 4 episodes, but each episode is about 32 minutes with opening and closing credits. So, it's probably 25 minutes per each episode. Let's talk a little bit about what the show is. Then I'm going to drop into non-spoiler review, followed by spoiler review. So, Eyes of Wakanda, if you're not familiar with this, Marvel kind of actually has taken something from Netflix, where they're just like, we're dropping this. We're dropping this without much lead-in and fanfare. They had the one trailer. They had kind of a teaser, and that was about it. And then obviously it got moved up. So I expect the numbers on this to look real bad at the start. But the show is basically a show of 4 stories. 4 stories from Wakanda's history that are all technically canon to the MCU. This is the first animated show where I believe they said this is canon to main timeline. And each story, each episode takes part in a different piece of history. So we start back in the BCs and then move forward considerably. And let's just talk about the show overall. The show overall for me is a bit of a mixed bag. It's interesting because I want to say that I don't think there's a bad episode in this show. Most of the episodes are good, enjoyable, and fun. However, there's not a great episode. There's one that gets kind of close to touching on great, but there's not a great episode of this show, and watching it you're a little bit like, cool, did this matter? Is this something that's super important for the MCU? Absolutely not. Is this something that's super important for the history of Wakanda? Maybe. It depends on where they go with Black Panther 3, but probably not. Is this a fun, enjoyable show? Yes. Does the animation look really good? Yes. But is that enough to really be like, yeah, this was warranted making? Maybe. And that's the weird spot that this show is in right now. I know when Greg and I were talking about it at the start of the year, when we were ranking everything that was coming out in 2025, Eyes of Wakanda was a pretty highly ranked one. It was our top animated show for both of us. And I would say I don't think it's going to necessarily end up number 3, but it could. If Marvel Zombies, which comes out in probably a month and a half, if I had to guess, 2 months, probably 2 months. If that's great, then it might be. So let's move into spoilers now. Spoilers. You have been warned. Spoilers. So the first episode, as we get into spoilers here, is the story of basically the idea of the war dogs. This is the introduction to the concept for the whole show. This Nori gets recruited back kind of by the Dormelage to deal with the Lion, this former war dog who, once he got kind of a taste of what the outside world was like, no, I want to kind of be great and be in charge. And now, of course, they can't have him out there with Wakandan technology taking stuff down or spreading kind of the technology out there. And even, this is BC, the technology is not super advanced for Wakanda at this point in time, but clearly more advanced than everywhere else. And that's a trend that continues throughout the show, though episode 3 is the one where you really get that feeling. So it is a pretty nice, well done story. Probably my second favorite episode, because it really introduces this concept and really puts in kind of this tension that is supposed to get paid off at the end of the show. I do think, looking back on it, yeah, it kind of does get paid off. So what is this tension? This tension is the idea that Wakandans hide themselves from the world. They have hidden away. They've decided that the rest of the world is too violent, and in all fairness, that's the case. And they have these war dogs, these spies, not really spies, but operatives who go out and retrieve artifacts from Wakandan's history. But the Lion, he decides, no, I have a chance to rule it all. And from that point on, and Nori actually kind of fails in her mission. A lot of what we see the War Dogs doing in the next 3 episodes actually is cleaning up some of her mistakes. She doesn't get back all the Wakandan technology, but she defeats the Lion and returns. Excuse me. And like I said, it's a good episode. I think there's some very interesting elements in there, and I like how they did the storytelling in this one. They gave us some of the action and plot first, and then went back and filled us in how she got there. The second episode is all about the Battle of Troy and the Trojan horse, and this soldier who has been with Achilles for 9 years to basically then betray Achilles at the end, to have to be the one to stop him. I mean, literally cuts his Achilles. It was a bit on the nose, but like it was a good emotional episode, probably the most emotional out of the episodes, because you could feel how this soldier, this war dog, understood his job. He understood that it was the most important thing that he complete his mission, but at the same time, you could also sense the hurt. I love the line at the end that he gives where he's like, give me a mission, I'll go do it, because I'm more at home out there than I am in Wakanda. And that's always the tension that is kind of in this show, is how do these war dogs handle the exposure? Because the rest of Wakanda doesn't know the exposure, doesn't know what the world is up to. They just know that it's a violent place. And it's always questioning that. But again, this one doubles down on it. He betrays his friend Achilles to be able to get the vibranium and take it back. And that kind of breaks him. But then that gets us to the third one. There's this bent piece of vibranium that is being used as the tongue of a dragon. And this is the episode, by the way, that has Iron Fist. And it's my favorite out of all of them because I think having a little bit bigger scope, having Iron Fist, the version of Iron Fist in the past, in there, works well. I like that they brought in more to the world. So this guy kind of befriends the Iron Fist unknowingly. He just thinks that she's kind of in charge of the temple. And he's very cavalier with his missions. He looks at it and goes like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to have some fun doing this. I'm confident, I'm good, screw protocol. But when he eventually has to steal the idol and leaves, he, of course, causes a ruckus, and she has been following him. He has not pulled the wool over her eyes like he thought he had, and she catches a ride back on his ship. And this is a flying ship in the year 1400. So Wakanda is obviously very well past everywhere else, technologically. So she's doing that because the idol, the dragon head, is so important to her community. And from how she's seeing it, he's stealing from them. And it's all about how can he kind of get out of this situation. And he's one of the first who really helps somebody else. When he faces off against the Iron Fist, they kind of come to an understanding as to what everything is. And she very deftly removes the tongue from the dragon. So it was just his incompetence in some ways, his cockiness, where it was like, well, I barely tried to remove the tongue. I just tried to pull it out. Didn't work. Could have tried to lift it up. Probably would have worked. But I like how it is this situation where he's the first who has really embraced, not all of them though, really, not Nori, but the villain in the first one, the War Dog in the second one, this War Dog, they all have embraced kind of the outside world up to this point. And having the outside world come into Wakanda, I think, made for a fun episode. And yeah, I thought it worked nicely. And like I said, I don't know that this is a great episode. It's still good. Every episode I think is good, but this is the one that I definitely had the most fun with. And then the final one has some interesting twists to it. I should have noticed it from the first episode when they lingered on this vibranium kind of axe sinking into the ocean. I should have recognized it from Black Panther, since that's the relic that Killmonger finds in the museum, and then that event leads to Wakanda opening up their borders. But in this story, Wakandans, the War Dogs, including the third prince, who's out there with a War Dog, kind of being like, well, what do I do? I'm the third prince. So this would be T'Chaka's youngest sibling? Well, assuming you got the timing right. I forget exactly what this time period was set. Won't be T'Chaka yet, but it'll be getting closer. Anyways, they're back very much to, and the guy in charge is very much, everything vibranium belongs in Wakanda. But then they meet a Black Panther from the future, who she has traveled to all the different times in the past that we've seen, looking for the moment where the timeline changes, where Wakanda doubles down on their decision to stay separate from the rest of the world. because this alien group, the Horde, is attacking in the future. And because in this timeline where this axe is taken, Wakanda stays hidden away. That means that when the Horde attacks, they stay separate. They're like, let everybody else deal with it. We feel confident that we can protect ourselves when it comes down to it. Turns out they're wrong. And so she has to convince them. It doesn't take much to convince the prince, but the prince then has to convince the war dog that, no, this is real. This is true. We can believe her. We can trust her. And we have to return this item because it goes against everything that the war dogs stand for. The idea of the war dogs is they bring back Wakandan technology. And so to have that struggle, I think they did kind of wrap it up nicely. I think the last episode did wrap it up well and give kind of some cohesion to everything. Much like, I would say, in What If, generally the last 2 episodes did that. But as much as I enjoyed watching it, it's also only so memorable. And as I look at it, I'm asking the question, is this something I'm going to come back to? Is this something I want more of? Because I think my hope had been it would really flesh out and give us more Wakandan lore and develop the lands into a more fully fleshed out setting. And it definitely did. I think it gave us this idea of the war dogs, which was very cool. And kind of how they've operated. But at the same time, it felt light on kind of the impact that I was hoping it would have. So that's just kind of my thoughts. If you've made it to the end, or you clicked to the end because you thought that was when I was going to have my thoughts, the TLDR is, it's fun. It's worth watching because it's quick, but it's not great. It didn't blow me away or anything like that. But let me know your thoughts on Eyes of Wakanda. Have you checked it out? Or honestly, drop your thoughts when you have checked it out. Let me know what you think about it. You can do that obviously down in the comment section below. If you enjoy this content, please give the video a thumbs up. And we'll be talking about Eyes of Wakanda on this upcoming podcast that comes out Sunday nights. You can find the podcast, hear our thoughts on Fantastic Four First Steps over here on YouTube. Click onto the channel, subscribe, and click that notification bell if you haven't already. We appreciate everybody who has and everybody who's checking out the videos. And then click on the podcast tab. Or you can search for 10 Minute Marvel wherever you get your friendly neighborhood podcast from. But with that, I'll see you next time. Wrong button.